Hello, everyone. Today with me is Aaron Tang from Luno, and we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Dr. Jason. It's
Okay.
an honor.
Ayo, call me Jason, bro. We're friends. Anyway, so thanks for coming on. I just want to ask you, just explain briefly what is Luno and what is Bitcoin.
Awesome. So Luno is we call the formal term is digital asset exchange, but basically, yeah, that's the official term. But basically, we have an app, we have a website that allows Malaysians to buy and sell and learn about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. So we want to make it as easy and simple and safe as possible for people to get involved in cryptocurrency.
Right. So full disclosure to everyone listening, I am a Luno user and I have some Bitcoin in that Luno wallet. And that's how I met Aaron, actually. We met, I think, at a financial event of some sort, right, Aaron?
Yeah, it was, I think it was an annual dinner. Like it's 2 years ago now. I mean, time has just flown by.
Yeah. So, okay, some questions about Bitcoin. So when I first started getting into Bitcoin, people said that, Bitcoin is going to go to the moon, and it jumped from like $1,000 to then it became like 26,000 US dollars in like within 1 year, I believe, or 18 months. And then now it's come back to about 9,000 as at this time of speaking. I was wondering because the whole hype about Bitcoin was, it's going to be one Bitcoin to 100,000 US dollars, 200,000 US dollars. And now with the whole, pandemic and everything, it seems that it's not getting anywhere near those huge figures that is now almost mythical. What's your take on this Bitcoin's trajectory?
So I think, it's one of those things where people get caught up in the hype. We've seen it a lot in any kind of new technology, right? Whether it's the internet, if you go back, even at one point in time, railroads or electricity was the hype of the day, and people would just dump money into it, expecting it to always go up. So I think Bitcoin is no exception to this. Bitcoin, when it, in the glory years of 2017, people just thought it would go up forever, and that obviously didn't come true. Long term, I'm obviously a very big believer in Bitcoin. That's why I transitioned my career into working full time in crypto. But yeah, I mean, we don't usually like to give like price predictions or anything because it's sometimes a bit irresponsible, just to tell people it'll go to a certain price. But no, we're believers in the technology, and we think it'll be good.
Right. Okay. I also have been following Luno's journey since its early days until now, and one of the big things is you guys got correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys got approval from the Security Exchange Commission or something like that to operate or something.
Yeah, so we were the first digital asset exchange to get full approval to operate in Malaysia. For those of you who may not be familiar, Securities Commission is basically the government-related entity that monitors all the investment-related or the fundraising bodies in the country. So if you are ever not sure about an investment or something like that, you can actually check on the SC website. Is this a legitimate thing or not?
Wait, hold on. So if there's any like scams out there, you can go on the website and then the website will inform you whether it's a scam or not?
So it's not as intelligent as that, but there is a blacklist.
There is a blacklist, right?
So yeah, so Bank Negara has a sorry, cut you off. Yeah.
You're saying Bank Negara has a blacklist?
Bank Negara has a blacklist, and Securities Commission also has a blacklist. So if you are in doubt, or you can always check this websites for certainty.
Right. I was just curious. I mean, obviously that was one of the big things, getting the SC's approval. What was it like getting to work with government agencies? Because I can only imagine it must be a real headache to deal with the Malaysian bureaucracy, especially from a very young startup.
Yeah. Sorry, Jason. So my garage band seems to be playing in a loop. I don't know if it's working correctly. Shall we just continue, or
okay? Never mind.
It's
okay. Continue. It's okay because I'm recording Zoom's audio and also my own audio, so I think I can patch it up. Okay, go on. Okay, we start again. So Yeah, so obviously one of the big things was getting the SC's approval. I want to know what it's like to deal with the Malaysian bureaucracy, especially from a young startup like you, because I can imagine it's only a headache dealing with Malaysian government's
Yeah.
inefficiency.
Yeah. So I'll be very, very honest with you, right? I was actually really surprised. I don't know if it's a urban Malaysian thing, right? We often think that, oh, government sure very slow, sure sure very bureaucratic, sure very traditional, don't even know what Bitcoin is, right? But when I personally started working with some of the government agencies, I was really pleasantly surprised because they are very forward thinking. They're actually quite open to what the industry players are saying. It didn't go like this is what I want you to do, ABC, do it, right? It was more
Yes.
like, okay, tell
Oh,
us about your industry and how we can sort of work together to make cryptocurrency Bitcoin a more regulated thing in Malaysia. So it was a
right.
really pleasant experience actually.
Oh, that's very interesting. Is the SC like a subsidiary of Bank Negara
No.
or
So
separate?
SC is separate from Bank Negara, whereas Bank Negara is more related to the what do you call that? The banks, the I guess you can call it the financial infrastructure itself. SC is
Right.
just related to things like investing, fundraising. So both
Oh,
of them report to Minister of Finance, but
oh,
sorry, Ministry of Finance.
right.
But they are sort of like brother sister lah. SC one side, Bank Negara one side.
Right. Okay. Okay. So that to me that's interesting because like, yes, I have dealt with Bank Negara. I've performed for them, and like I said, I was really surprised that like I was like, "Are you sure you want me to perform for a government agency?" And then I went there, and it was the event was not set up properly. So normally I perform, and there's a crowd in front of me, but this was like they
Mhm.
set up like a boxing ring where there's like the audience is all around the stage, if you can imagine, and then the VIPs was one side, but the major bulk of the audience was on the other two sides. So if I address the main audience, the VIP only looks at my left, right? So I thought, oh my god, it's such a challenging gig. But it turns out it went well because surprisingly, Bank Negara is filled with really how to say capable, intelligent people. So I must assume that the working with the SC is also the same. Like they are contrary to popular belief, really great guys and women in SC.
Yeah, and it may sound like it may sound I don't know like it may sound like we're kind of like sucking up or anything like that, right? Because we're
Right.
regulated by them, but I think that if anyone actually goes and has a personal experience dealing with the SC, I would suspect that most people would be very pleasantly surprised because
Right.
professional, fast, they keep to what they say. So yeah, it was great.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask you a politically charged question. Okay. Now, when I started using Luno, I believe it was 2017, whatever, a different Ministry of Finance, and then
Mm-hmm.
in the past 2 years, we had two different two different ministries of finance. Are there any substantial differences working with the PH government's Ministry of Finance and the BN's Ministry of Finance?
Yeah. So we've been very, I guess we can say we've been very fortunate in the sense that the SC is meant to be political free, right? As Bank Negara is meant to be politics free, right?
Yes.
So we haven't felt it from our level, right? Granted, we know that the Minister of Finance has changed, right? It's very clear. It's in the newspapers, everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
from our perspective, the people we deal with remain the same, right? Throughout the previous government, the new government, and then the new government. It has been the same people that we're dealing
Right.
with, and
Okay.
that
That's good.
professionalism has never changed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Like again, it's the same. Like the Ministry of Health. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can change ministers, but the people who are doing the real work, so to speak, like Dr. Noor Hisham, remains the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's a true Malaysian hero, lah. Yeah.
Yeah, man. You should give you some free Bitcoin or free Luno vouchers. Okay.
Right.
Uh, so Bitcoins. A lot of people say Bitcoin's value will increase if Bitcoin is more, how shall I say, usable, right?
Mm-hmm.
and as it stands now, the whole world is going through a very cashless environment where we don't want to meet face to face. We rather scan a QR code and then send money that way, pay for things that way. So this whole COVID-19 and MCO has really catapulted that. But I don't feel that Bitcoin is being used more. Is this more of a testament to Bitcoin's inability to be used as a currency?
Right. So I think the thing that sort of triggers the I would almost call it a bit of a misconception that Bitcoin needs to be widely used for like buying coffee or buying nasi lemak on the street for it to be successful, right?
Okay.
Because the name is cryptocurrency, people think that it must be used like a ringgit Malaysia, right?
Okay.
I think we're at this stage where Bitcoin has shown it's a little bit more right now like an investment asset. So a popular analogy people like to say is it's like digital gold. It's like gold, but digital form, which you can buy and trade 24/7 online. You don't have to store it like in a vault or in a safe in your house, because that's so old school, right? So I think Bitcoin is right now in this sort of stage, because currently it doesn't make sense to use Bitcoin to buy your coffee or to pay for your insurance premium, because the price is still fluctuating. It goes up, it goes down. Nobody wants to pay for something knowing that the money can change value today.
Yep.
The shopkeeper also doesn't want to take your money because today it's worth $10, right? Tomorrow it might be worth $11 or $12.
Right.
So I think right now we're still at a very early sort of, almost in the, some people will call it a speculative stage, where people are still starting to get to know the asset. And we think, at least at Luno, we think that when it comes to a stage where a lot of the population has gotten used to it or started using to it, that's when maybe we'll start to see it used in daily transactions more. So who knows, if like say 15 or 20% of the population has access to Bitcoin, then we may be able to start sending it to each other because it's more widely accepted then.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, because a lot of those Bitcoin hawks will always say that, a lot of people, no, a lot of experts in Bitcoin won't dare to say that Bitcoin is more of an investment now as opposed to a currency. That's a very interesting point of view. I always thought that it's to be used to buy something and get paid via Bitcoin. So in the future, how do you see Bitcoin's usability? Where do you see Bitcoin being used the most in the future?
Right. So one of the things that we think Bitcoin, and not just Bitcoin, but cryptocurrencies in general, is the area of, is something called decentralized finance. It's another big term, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like traditional finance, but now applied to using digital assets. So I'll give you an example, right? Back then in say 2015, 2016, 2017, the way most people use Bitcoin was, I buy it, I hope the price increase, I sell to get profit, right?
Yeah, that's what I
Or,
did.
and made you a rich man maybe.
No lah.
The other way people, back then there was something known as ICO, right? Remember, everyone was like
Yes.
issuing their own coin. And then, people wanted to sort of invest and, hopefully the coin grows big and then they sell it and they earn money. So that was how people used to use those coins.
Mm-hmm.
But in the future, we're starting to see people move into something called decentralized finance, which allows some of the more traditional functions of like the banks, what the banks do. So examples of decentralized finance are things like lending, things like interest. So now you can actually own cryptocurrency and you can lend it to somebody and you can earn interest on that lending. And the guy you lend to also, he has to pay interest. So it's quite interesting, these kind of applications, which I think we'll see more and more of in the future. Little bit similar to what we have today, but using cryptocurrency or digital assets.
Wow. So that means any person who is wealthy enough can become like a mini bank?
Yeah, I think the really powerful
Mm.
thing about decentralized finance is that you don't have to be rich like a bank, right? Like I think the capital needed to start a bank is maybe hundreds of billions or something like that, some insane figure, right? Whereas maybe you had just say 10 Ethereum or something, and you would be able to loan out to small quantities of that digital assets you have. One of the powerful things about cryptocurrency and digital assets is that you don't need the huge scale anymore. You, even if you have just one, or maybe you have 500 ringgit worth, you would be able to lend it, or to get earn some interest on it.
Wow. So, okay, now won't this take away the power from the banks? And how feasible you think this will be? Because I don't think the banks will allow you to do it, man. I think they might launch a nuclear strike or send assassins to every single person who wants to do this decentralized banking system, because they're going to lose their power. They're going to lose all the money, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing, definitely a lot of people are questioning, like, are the big banks going to lose their power? I think there's two angles to explore, right? The first is the central banks, right? Central banks like Bank Negara or the US Fed or the Bank of England. I don't think they're going to just allow people to say that, oh, this currency is the currency of the UK now. No, there is a
Yes, yes,
certain,
yes.
you can call it sovereignty or something. So I don't think we will touch on that, right? Because I think the central banks will always have some form of power, lah. But if we talk about technology itself, and if we talk about commercial banks, right? These are banks that are lending money and stuff, making money, right? I do think that there is we like to call it disruption, a threat of disruption.
Yeah,
It's the
man.
same thing like how Uber was to maybe taxis, right?
Yes.
Taxis, the
They fought
associations,
back.
whatever,
They
was so,
fought back. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I think this is more in terms of like commercial kind of fighting, lah. The best technology, who serves the customers will probably win in the end. And maybe the smart banks may actually start to get involved in digital currencies themselves, and actually help lead the change to digital assets.
Wow, when you mention like Uber and taxis, like yeah, it sounds feasible, because like you can see it from the point of view of the taxis, right? Where Uber comes up, and then the
Mm-hmm.
taxi is like, how dare you change the way business has been done? But whereas to us, the consumers, we're like, yeah, of course, Uber is 10 times better than taxis in almost
Mm-hmm.
every facet. There is no one angle where the taxis are better than Uber, and
Mm-hmm.
now Grab, whatever. But
Yep.
it's interesting that happened quite quickly, like say 2 years, 3 years, even though they
Yep.
made a lot of noise.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that we can see this happening with banks, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
that it'll take a longer time, right? Because these are banks we're talking about. These are those secret meetings in secret players where only 10 people control the world, kind of thing, and then we are trying to disrupt that. I mean, it'll take a longer time, right? Like decades.
It's hard to say how long it'll take, right? But maybe just an example of how even big banks are warming up to cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So I don't know if you've read this about this bank, JP Morgan Chase. They are the largest bank in the US. So as late as 2017, the CEO of that bank was saying, his name is Jamie Dimon or something like
Yes,
that.
yes. I know this guy. Bit of an asshole,
Yeah.
right? In the Bitcoin circuit.
So he
Yeah.
said that Bitcoin is a fraud. He was saying all those things as late as 2017, I think. I think in 2018 or 19, if I'm not mistaken, he said, I regret those comments. And last month, JP Morgan Chase actually opened up their banking services to two cryptocurrency exchanges. So in a matter of 2 years or three
Wow.
years, this major bank has gone a complete U-turn from being so against Bitcoin and crypto to
Yes.
actually being part of the revolution.
Oh, wow. So yeah, I remember this guy Diamond. He was basically shitting on Bitcoin, uh, and then after that, was it rumored that he was shitting on Bitcoin, but then he sort of shorted his amount of Bitcoin or something? Do you remember this rumor?
I actually cannot recall, but I mean, it could be the Goldman Sachs guys as well,
Oh, okay,
because
okay.
they recently released something kind of dissing Bitcoin.
Ah,
But but you also know that Goldman Sachs has invested in like crypto companies
right.
on the other side, so it's very interesting
So,
sometimes.
so yeah, it is astonishing for me because I knew about the JP Morgan and Diamond thing when in
Mm-hmm.
2017, 18, where I think, yes, he said he was shitting on Bitcoin. But now when
Mm-hmm.
you say that, yes, he's warming up to it, banks are doing it, it's pretty interesting because I went to your Luno event early this year, and someone mentioned about the Facebook coin, Libra,
Right,
right? So
right.
that's another big thing that is in the pipeline. Has it happened or will it be happening soon?
So Facebook coin is super interesting. I think the story behind it is quite. I mean, it's like a learning lesson for all of us, because when
Uh-huh.
they wanted to come up, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna incorporate in Switzerland. We're gonna be independent, right? We're going to spread adoption of our coin through, the plan was perhaps to spread it through WhatsApp, Instagram. So imagine like billions of people using that coin.
Hmm.
Sure, the adoption is like super super good, right? But they've been getting so much pressure from regulators
Hmm.
or the central banks that they've actually dialed down their plans a bit.
No.
They've pivoted a bit. As far as I understand, the Facebook coin is now going to be linked to national currency, so
Alamak.
it's not going to be an independent currency. It's going to be maybe USD linked to FB coin. So in that sense, I think it's still exciting because it will introduce millions or maybe billions of people to digital currency. But the I guess maybe the libertarian inside of
Aha,
me
ha,
says,
ha, ha.
you dialed it down from the we're
Yes,
gonna be
yes.
100% independent. Yeah,
Oh, that's so
yeah.
sad because, but I remember there was some optimism from you guys because you guys said that even though it's dialed down, but this Facebook coin, when people use Facebook coin, they will
Hmm.
learn about digital currency, and you cannot talk about digital currency without talking about Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The great thing we've always seen is that, even central banks, right? Don't talk about Facebook, right? Talk about central banks like the People Bank of China with their billions of people. They are also looking into digital currency. Sometimes a lot of people say, "Oh, why do you believe in this like fake digital magical internet money?" Right? And then I'm like, if you really look with, I guess, an open mind, you can see that the way the way the world is shifting is definitely towards that, right? Why would the central bank of China investigate or try to plan their own digital currency if there was no future in it, right? I think if we look with open eyes, we'll just see that the trends are shifting towards digital assets, and
Yeah,
the data is there.
yeah, I feel you, man. Because when I hear you talk about the world is shifting, whatever, and all that, it's the same feeling I have with, like, say, medical cannabis. You know,
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, the data is there, the numbers are there, but it's just so hard to get governments to move. Like even in Thailand, which is now I think the most forward moving country in, say, Asia or
Mm-hmm,
Southeast Asia with regards to marijuana, medical
mm-hmm,
marijuana. They only recently made it legal for medical marijuana to be distributed or whatever. But any company that distributes medical marijuana in Thailand must be 2/3 owned by Thais. You know
I
what I mean? So
see.
even the
Yes.
most progressive government is trying to, like, control it in by bits and pieces, right? I mean, I'm sure we both like to see, like, yeah, everything legal, then that's where true disruption lies. Um,
Yeah, I think.
yeah, go
Yeah, I
ahead, go
think
ahead.
there's always a I, I mean, sometimes I almost feel that am I or are we living in a bubble, right? Like, we want all these modern, super cool things, and sometimes I realize that because there's a broad spectrum of society, sometimes we have laws that are not so open to protect certain pockets of of society. So, even like when it comes to say Bitcoin and crypto regulation, people may ask, right? The true libertarians will ask that, why do you need regulations in Malaysia for crypto? Crypto is supposed to be open market free.
Yes.
Are you guys selling out by actually applying for a approved regulation in Malaysia, right?
Big words,
You know,
man.
but but I think regulation is so important because it protects the average consumer. The 1 or 2% guy who knows how to trade electronic futures in Seychelles Island or what, he can do it, right? But you have to protect the makcik, you have to protect the pakcik, who may
Yes.
not, who is 50 years old, may not have so much access to education and stuff. So I think regulation is very important to help protect people.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But not too much lah. Not
Okay,
iron fist
yeah.
regulation.
So can you explain to me, how do people trade electronic futures in the Seychelles? Or
that one is like way above my pay grade, so I still like have no idea.
I would love to find out. Okay, so you have mentioned libertarian. That you said you are a libertarian. I'm very interested to know what does it mean to be a libertarian. Only because one of my favorite characters on Parks and Rec, a very awesome sitcom, his name is Ron Swanson, and he is a libertarian. The character, and it's so. Do you watch Parks and Rec?
No, I don't.
Okay, let me explain. So Parks and Rec is literally about a group of people working in the Parks and Rec department, a government department. Okay, and the head of the Parks and Rec department is this guy named Ron Swanson. He is a libertarian, which means he wants the government to crumble. And so that's why he is in the Parks and Rec department, to run the most inefficient government possible, because he doesn't like government spending.
Right.
Okay? The best character in the sitcom, and all my image of a libertarian is that guy. And if you Google image him, you will realize that you look very different from him. So what does it mean to be a libertarian?
Right. So maybe I just clarify. I don't consider myself to be like a true libertarian, right?
Or just a fake one?
Well, I think I have libertarian tendencies. I wouldn't say I'm like a full libertarian, because if I was, I wouldn't work in like a regulated crypto digital asset exchange.
Okay.
I'll give you a super drastic example of a libertarian.
Okay.
So there was this guy, I forgot his name. He actually, you know those like offshore pelanta minyak, off the coast where they used to dig oil in the sea.
Yeah, the one where it's right out in the ocean and there's waves crashing on it and people are on the rig. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So in the UK, there's actually a lot of this kind of planta minyak lah, abandoned one, right? Because people have been digging, oil for like I think hundreds of years. Some of these are already, they don't use it anymore, so they're just floating structures in the middle of the sea lah. Okay, so there was this guy, true libertarian, right? He found his way somehow to this structure, and he planted his own flag. And he declared himself, I am the true king of don't know whatever kingdom this is. And then
of the oil rig, okay?
Yeah. So he formed his own government. I mean, it was like insane, right? Like, he, I think, sent like messages saying that, I'm the true king of these things.
Right.
Don't come and attack my sovereignty, right? I have a sovereign right to defend my territory and stuff like that. So I think if you take libertarian to the extreme, you might get someone like that. He's, I don't need the government. I regulate myself. Right. That's the extreme example lah. If you take it down a notch a bit, if you see those sort of in US now, sometimes you see those guys that take guns out and march on the street.
The white guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of these guys are probably libertarians because they believe in, I have the right to defend myself using my own arms.
Oh, okay. Is it the same case with, remember that one guy named Amos, whatever, in America, I don't know which state it was, starts with O1. he got a bunch of his guys to sort of defend his ranch or his farm, and then they all had guns, and they said that this is our land and we are protecting against the authorities or whatever. Is it kind of the same vibe?
I think it's kind of the same vibe. Yeah, I mean, you know, the America has, I don't know what, second or third amendment or something. You have the right to arms to protect
I think
your
second,
territory.
second
Yeah,
amendment.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that's sort of the independent thing, lah. You know, I am
Right.
in charge of my future, and that's the libertarian spirit, lah, so to speak.
That's interesting. So how does your libertarian tendencies get infused with Bitcoin? Is to see the banks crumble, right?
Not really that.
You can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the position of Aaron, who is which is independent of Luno and do not reflect Luno's position. But yeah, explain. I mean, I'm really interested to know.
So I think where I believe in libertarian principles and free markets is that you can't artificially block progress, right?
Wow. Okay.
We spoke about medical marijuana, right? And
Yes.
if the research has shown that there's a need for it, we should do it. If there's something that's blocking it, which is not, say, grounded in science or not grounded in reason, right? If there's something like it's just because of tradition, we don't want it, right? To me, I think the libertarian spirit is at odds with that. Whereas I think people should be free to do what they want as long as it doesn't infringe on the right of others, right?
Right.
The rights of others. So I think that's one of the sort of nicer parts of libertarianism that I believe myself.
Right.
When it comes to the context of Bitcoin, I sort of became so interested in the technology because it's a technology that I guess you can say it removes a lot of the middlemen. Without going into the tech details of Bitcoin technology, it works on a decentralized way. Like everyone is a part of the system and everyone sort of contributes to the system, a bit like the internet. And I think the internet has been a net good for society.
Oh yeah.
There are bad things, but it's
Agree.
been a net good.
Net good. Yeah. Changed.
Yeah. And
it changed to it. I mean, we have not seen real equality among men, but I think it's really sort of slowly leveled the playing field. Like even in my industry, right now, we can broadcast from our homes. Some people can be savvy enough to be one-man production studios at home and broadcast shows on the internet without being tied to a TV company or another platform, right? So yes, what I'm trying to get is internet is a net good, and it'd be interesting to see whether Bitcoin will be a net good in the future.
Exactly, yeah, and as much as I believe in Bitcoin, I think it's only been 11 years, right? To pass judgment on something that's 11 years old. A lot of people have said that Bitcoin is dead. No one uses Bitcoin. I think we will see. I'm very confident, but let's see what happens over the next few years for Bitcoin.
I think yeah, definitely. I mean, Bitcoin is at the end of the day another brand, but I think the Pandora's box of digital currency has been opened, and you cannot close it back anymore. That it's out in the open. Same like medical marijuana. It's out in the open. I keep telling people that, look, one day we are going to talk about medical marijuana, just like how we talk about Panadol or paracetamol or ibuprofen. It's just a matter of time whether Malaysia wants to adopt it and be a leader in that field or just want to follow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, personal opinion, I think there's a huge market for it. Don't ask me how I know, but I think there's a huge market for it.
Medical marijuana or Bitcoin?
Both.
Both, right.
Yeah.
So now with MCO and a lot of people are losing jobs and everything, whenever the economy is in downturn, more people get desperate, and there always the allure of easy money, and that's where scams operate, right? How do we guard ourselves against scams that involve Bitcoin or digital currency?
Cool. So the easiest answer to that is if it's something new for you, the first principle is don't ever invest more money than you're willing to lose. So, in today's digital age, right? Back then you if you want to invest, you need at least like 1,000 or 5,000, huge sums of money, right? In today's digital age, with all the apps, all the technology, you can start with something like 3 ringgit, 10 ringgit. So I would really recommend anyone, if you're trying something new, right? Never put more than you're willing to lose. Just start with something you're comfortable with. The second thing is something we kind of touched earlier. Look for those platforms or companies that are regulated, because if something is regulated, you can imagine that it has been checked by a panel of government people or government related people to make sure that this is safe for the average consumer. Right. So I think that's a really good starting point.
Okay. Because like a lot of there were a lot of scams in, like, I would say, when I first started investing in Bitcoin, there were a lot of scams that were abound, and it's so sad to see just people losing their hard-earned money, and it's usually the people who can't afford to lose any more money. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate, right? Because I would like to think that the people I know are fairly well aware of trends and scams. But even then, I get a lot of messages and questions from even relatives and close friends, right? Like, what do you think of this, or what do you think of that? And that, to me, sometimes I feel like it's quite obvious that this is a scam. But of course, I need to share in a very gentle, and because you don't want to sound very judgmental or preachy to people, right? You just want them to understand that it's most likely or 100% a scam. But if you become that annoying preachy person, they're not going to come to you when they have questions, right? They're going to hide it from you. So it's finding that balance.
That's so sad. I think that's why you're such a good comms person, because like if it's me, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like when it comes to like medical scams, like hey, Jason, does this work? I'm like, of course it doesn't, you idiot. Like I get all worked up because why? Okay, for example, like let's say like this herb will prevent heart attacks, for example, right? And then I said, Jason, does this do that? I said, of course not. If it does, all the hospitals will be using it. Why wouldn't they be using it? They can charge a lot of money for this herb. Why do you think they're not giving it? Because it doesn't work. Man, get all worked out now.
Yeah.
I had this thought the other day because, like I said, I have Bitcoin, and of course, I'll be interested if Bitcoin gets used all around and the value goes up. And but recently, right? Remember when Muhyiddin Yassin gave a speech about his economic plans, and then he used the name Makcik Kia. Remember, think of this Makcik Kia. Makcik Kia can save money by doing this. And I think that's a master stroke of his speechwriter, because he puts the layman or woman right in the center of the narrative, right? And I think like Bitcoin or Luno should do that in Malaysia, because you need the average person on the street to be able to embrace Bitcoin just as easily as we, in our bubble, embrace Bitcoin. And one of the, the aspirations of Bitcoin fans is to bank the unbanked, right?
Right.
And I can imagine there are a lot of, lower income folks, the B40s, who don't have a bank, who don't have a debit card or a credit card, who can benefit from Bitcoin. Am I right or am I wrong? And if I'm right, how can this be done?
Yep, you are definitely right, and you are especially right in the sense that it is right now, as of today, a vision, something that people are still working towards. If someone comes to you and says that, oh, my coin today is helping the underserved, I'm helping like 5 million underserved, I would say that that's most likely BS, because we're still at such an early stage. I think we've been very honest, right? At the start, we said that Bitcoin in its current stage is perhaps more of an investment asset than something that you use for coffee, or something you can use to send money to your relative in the kampong, right? I think the technology is so young. The interesting thing about Bitcoin is it's not a static technology. It's basically computer code, right? And there's lots of innovation going onto this code. So a simple example is currently Bitcoin transactions. You could probably do, say, anywhere up to 1 to 2,000 transactions every 10 minutes using Bitcoin.
Right.
That's the technical limitation. Is this going to be enough for a world where you want to send money from Africa to Southeast Asia? I don't think so. A lot of people don't think so. So there's so much innovation being built on top of this sort of foundation technology that could perhaps one day in the future you can transfer money. You can transfer even maybe as low as $1, and it costs you only maybe 0.01 cent. So I think that remains something in planning and implementation. People are still doing a lot of work on it. And I think it needs time, to be honest. To have Makcik Kia and the maybe Pakcik Chong in the Pakcik Chong or Saleh, it may need some time and innovation for this to work. If we take the example of the internet, I mean, you've probably been around back when we used dial-up modem, right?
Oh yeah,
56K.
Oh, I was 36.6.
36.
Yeah, before that, I was one step lower. Yeah, I remember. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes the sound to the weird sound. So back then the internet was so crappy, right? No one could imagine that today, we're talking to each other with nice HD video over the internet, and we're about to broadcast this to, like, I don't know, thousands of people later, right?
Right.
I think technologies like Bitcoin, they're only going to get better with time, and I hope that someday the Makcik Kias and the Pakcik Chongs of the world will be able to use it for their small micro transactions.
Right. Yeah. And that's again, I like how you're confident in saying that the technology will only get better, which is true. It is absolutely true. I mean, technology will only get better. I mean, that's the essence of technology, right? And again, like it draws a parallel to what I believe in when it comes to, like, say, medical marijuana, right? I was telling my friends earlier on, I said, if only there's a way you can invest in some form of medical marijuana, because right now, what people know about medical marijuana is that, it has this amount of good stuff and maybe this amount of bad stuff. But the research is showing that more and more good stuff is coming, which means to say that the marijuana plant will only improve in terms of its efficacy because more research will be done on it. Adding to that, like, I don't know if you know, like, they do a lot of these cross strains. For example, like, they crossbreed don't know how many types of strains to get the best yield or the best medical marijuana plant, which I think is a common practice in other types of botany or other types of agriculture, right? So, like I said, just like how you're confident that the technology will improve, these things also hold true for a lot of other new things on the pipeline, which people still seem reluctant to embrace. But we are so sure that it's just gonna get better, and one day it's gonna hit that sweet spot where people say, I want that.
Yeah, the tipping point, right? Right now we are seemingly in the early adopter stage, and there's a lot of doubt, but someday probably that they will reach a tipping point. And do you secretly have like a medical marijuana startup somewhere, Jason?
Don't have, man. Well, I have invested in a company, but small time investment in New Zealand. So it's a company that so New Zealand doesn't have full-fledged legalization of medical marijuana, but they're expected to hold a referendum in November this year. Okay.
Wow.
But that's without this whole COVID-19 coming and fucking things up lah. So I invested last year with the hopes that when it gets green lit in New Zealand in November, the value of the company will go up. But now globally, I think all the medical marijuana companies have stopped for a while or whatever. And so, I mean, everything's on hold for now. So you don't know. My initial hopes was to actually get something started in Malaysia, because when government changed, we had 2 doctors in the cabinet, and then Nurul Izzah said that they wanted to decriminalize drug use, and also legalize marijuana for medical use. Even Tun M was like open to the idea.
Wow.
Yeah, so all these things were about to happen, and then, well, I mean, obviously these kind of things were on the their lowest priority, because they were too busy politicking, of course. And I think, remember the case of the guy who the guy who had medical marijuana stuff in his house, and he was treating his patients with it. Then they caught him and charged him, and he was about to get a death sentence, but then there was a moratorium on the death penalty, whatever. So now that
Wow.
guy has been charged with possession or whatever, and they're most likely going to sentence him to death.
Oh no, that's painful.
So again, I mean, it's at the start, it's always like we think progress will be linear and one straight line, but it's oftentimes a whole zigzag and all that. Anyway, you said that Bitcoin is like a sort of an investment asset, right? So right now, straight up, would you, if friends come to you and say, hey, what should I invest in, would you say buy Bitcoin? And how confident would you be to say buy Bitcoin?
So whenever friends ask me this question, I used to give them like a really long and bad answer, right? Then my wife scolded me. My wife's like, why do you give this kind of, the typical, it depends, this kind of answer, it depends on your own situation, which I know is like super annoying for a lot of people. So I've refined my answer. So I'm going to try it on you. First thing is, do you have sufficient emergency savings?
Yes.
Which is good. Okay, yes. Do you have other low risk investments that you can count on to sort of give you a good stable return?
I guess so, yes.
Yeah. And then are you willing to invest for the long term?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you said yes to all these 3 questions, put an amount that you are willing to experiment with the expectation that it may go a lot. It may grow, who knows, hundreds of percents, but also with the expectation that you might lose some money if the price goes down. So yeah.
Okay. So a very reasonable but unsexy answer from. But I guess this adds to your credibility, like, cause like, as opposed to people who go like, yeah, man, you gotta put in like half your savings into this particular cloud mining technology for Bitcoin, and that at the end of the day you get nothing back.
Yeah, sometimes it annoys us I'm sure it annoys you as well, right? You doctor yourself, like myself, I'm in the financial industry. I think it annoys us because there are a lot of these fake gurus out there who will just give like really, black and white answers to everything, right?
And that's when you know it's bullshit. Right?
Yeah, but the problem is a lot of people hang on to this kind of advice, right? People don't want to be told you have to think about it responsibly. People want to be told, buy this and you sure win. Man. So that's the annoying part, right?
You've hit the nail of you've hit the head of the nail, because like people, I don't know, it's our brains have just been adapted to just receiving the simplest form of messaging possible that resonates with what we already have in our brains, right? As long as the simple messaging fits our biases, confirm. We're gonna attach to that. For example, if you believe that scam works, all the fella has to say is this scam works for you, boom, you buy it. Same like stuff like, let's say a guy has cancer, and then he's desperate for a cure, and some guy goes, hey, if you take this combination of herbs, your cancer will be cured. And without logging into the the cognition part of his brain, he just goes, yeah, I'm going to take it because that's what I want to believe in. And that's why all this, like recently my friend who is a doctor, he shared an article about how like nobody cares for nuances anymore, right? Especially when it comes to this COVID-19, right? COVID-19 is actually a complex case, a very complex pandemic, which involves so many different countries, involves all the countries and all forms of life, all types of lives, of lifestyles and logistics, healthcare, pharmaceutical, even social stuff like your social distancing and everything. So a lot of people don't understand that it takes a lot of little things, little nuances to get you the right answer. But the media always says, these are 3 things you need to know about COVID-19. No, you actually need to know 25 things to get started, and and that's why we will always lose out to the fake gurus, because they have no qualms. They just go, here's the answer for you in black and white. And like, that cannot possibly be the answer. How do what's your strategy for combating this? I mean, your personal struggle.
So I think I have like a personal struggle and I have the professional struggle as well, right?
Tell me both, man. Tell me both.
I think my personal strategy is it's gonna sound a bit corny, right? But you have to address the fact that most people who fall to these kind of things are probably not in a good condition. They fall for these things because they're desperate to believe something, right?
Yep.
However ridiculous it may sound to a learned person, they want to believe it because they're in a difficult situation. So I think if I know that person personally, I would again, sounds super corny, but I would try to build that trust and that relationship before I go out and attack their ideas, right? Because that idea, as cultish or as silly as it may seem to us, they've almost attached their identity to it, right? And there are people like that in the Bitcoin community as well. I can tell you that, if you attack Bitcoin, it's like you're attacking them,
Right.
Yeah. So
yes. I'm starting to learn that now. Yeah. I see. So build your trust and then slowly tell them they're stupid. Okay, let me write that down somewhere. Okay, then after that, what do you? Okay.
I think from the sort of professional perspective, when we talk about what a company like us does, we get so upset sometimes also because there's a lot of companies out there that do not have to go through the hoops that we jump through to get regulated in Malaysia. But they still offer their services to all Malaysians, right?
Bro, it's the same thing with all these, traditional Chinese doctors and whatever, like they don't go to medical school, boom, take this herb. Like, can you imagine how upset the actual doctors are?
Yeah, and then charge a lot of money for it and get rich, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then. So I think for that sort of broad level thing, it's again more of an education thing. So yeah, we just part of it is like coming and speaking to personalities like yourself who have influence, just to share what it means for the wider public, awareness, unsexy stuff, because these are like stuff that you think your sekolah rendah teacher force upon you, right? This kind of awareness programs, but it's true. Sometimes you just need to keep hammering the message that Bitcoin is a uncertain space. If you're new to it, it's better to use a regulated platform, right? So sometimes you need to hammer the same message 10 times before the vulnerable people will listen to it.
Right.
So yeah,
it reminds me of a quite interesting story where, so I attended a few events where organized by a certain club where it turns out it was a scam, right? It was ran like a Ponzi scheme. But what is so interesting is these people, it's in the guise of education, right? They're telling, we're going to talk to you about Bitcoin and blah, blah, blah. They'll extol the virtues of Bitcoin, fair enough. But then at the end, say, sign up for our products, okay? Right. And it's interesting. It may be of interest to you because all of these events, right? They all will say the same thing at the end. If you want to buy Bitcoin, you must store it in a place. And right now, the best place to store Bitcoin is in Luno. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, so you must understand, like all these events, right? It's all a lot of real facts, real information, whatever, and then boom, and then they slide you the product, right? But the real facts also include, hey, sign up for Luno. So,
Okay.
so in a way, a lot of people have fallen prey for their scams, but also are Luno customers.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I will have to look into this.
yeah. So you got to check, man. You know, but
Yep.
I mean, there is a weird intersection, lah, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Anyway,
there's always a weird. Sorry.
no,
I
no,
think
go,
there's
go,
always a
go.
weird intersection between new technologies and scammy people, right?
Of course,
Even medical marijuana, I bet there's scammers out
of
there
course.
who are extolling the values, but then
Yes.
using it to make themselves rich. Sure
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah. I think there's one saying by Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says that
Mm-hmm.
as our circle of knowledge grows, so
Mm-hmm.
too will our perimeter of ignorance. Means
Hmm.
the more we know, the more we also don't know, right? But then
Right.
in this kind of stuff, as the new circle of technology grows, the perimeter for opportunity for scams also increase.
I'm gonna quote you on my Twitter or something, man. That's
No, but
that's like the winning quote.
yeah, but that's repurposed from Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was the one with the original quote. I just changed it because like more new tech, more new scams. Okay, anyway,
Right.
we've almost come to the end of the hour. I just want to ask you last words, last messages with regards to Bitcoin and or Luno.
Awesome. I think the most important thing that what people need to know is that you cannot deny the data that everyone is shifting towards digital economy, digital assets. Everything is going digital, right? I would encourage anyone who's not looked into this, go and do your reading, right? Go, listen to some podcasts, search Bitcoin, read some articles about it. um, Many years ago there was nothing like from legitimate sources, but today if you search Bitcoin, there's tons of great educational articles out there. Take a read, and then if you are interested to learn more, just try signing up and maybe buying a small amount that you're willing to experiment. Consider it your tuition fee to learn something new about technology. As low as like 3 ringgit or 5 ringgit, right? Just so that you get into the habit of learning and trying new things. And then I believe that if you go with an open mind, you will be blown away by this new technology and what it can possibly achieve for us one day.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Aaron. That's Aaron Tang from Luno. Thanks, bro, for chatting with me.
Thank you
you
so
so
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, if you sign up as a new Luno customer and buy 500 ringgit worth of Bitcoin, and if you put in the promo code DRJason50, you will get an additional 50 ringgit worth of Bitcoin. Sounds like a good deal, right? So go and sign up now at luno.com and find out more at their website. Bye bye. Thanks for watching. See you soon.